Verses 1-7. After the law for the discovery and shame of those that by sin had made themselves vile, fitly follows this for the direction and encouragement of those who by their eminent piety and devotion had made themselves honorable, and distinguished themselves from their neighbors. It is very probable that there were those before the making of this law who went under the character of Nazarites, and were celebrated by that title as persons professing greater strictness and zeal in religion than other people, for the vow of a Nazarite is spoken of here as a thing already well known, but the obligation of it is reduced to a greater certainty than hitherto it had been. Joseph is called a Nazarite among his brethren, General 49:26, not only because separate from them, but because eminent among them. Observe the general character of a Nazarite: it is a person separated unto the Lord. v2. Some were Nazarites for life, either by divine designation, as Samson, Judge 13:5, and John Baptist, Lu 1:15, or by their parents' vow concerning them, as Samuel, 1 Sa. 1:11. Of these this law speaks not. Others were so for a certain time, and by their own voluntary engagement, and concerning them rules are given by this law. A woman might bind herself with the vow of a Nazarite, under the limitations we find, ch 30:3, where the vow which the woman is supposed to vow unto the Lord seems to be meant especially of this vow. The Nazarites were devoted to the Lord during the time of their Nazariteship, and, it is probable, spent much of their time in the study of the law, in acts of devotion, and instructing others. An air of piety was thereby put upon them, and upon their whole conversation. Conformed to this world, they distinguished themselves, not only from others, but from what they themselves were before and after. They separated themselves by vowing a vow. Every Israelite was bound by the divine law to love God with all his heart, but the Nazarites by their own act and deed bound themselves to some religious observances as fruits and expressions of that love, which other Israelites were not bound to. Some such there were, whose spirits God stirred up to be in their day the ornaments of the church, the standard-bearers of religion, and patterns of piety. It is spoken of as a great favor to their nation that God raised up of their young men for Nazarites, Amos 2:11. The Nazarites were known in the streets and respected as purer than snow, whiter than milk, Lamb 4:7. Christ was called in reproach a Nazarene, so were his followers, but he was no Nazarite according to this law. He drank wine, and touched dead bodies, yet in his this type had its accomplishment, for in him all purity and perfection met, and every true Christian is a spiritual Nazarite, separated by vow unto the Lord. We find St. Paul, by the persuasion of his friends, in complaisance to the Jews, submitting to this law of the Nazarites, but at the same time it is declared that the Gentiles should observe no such thing, Acts 21:24, 25. It was looked upon as a great honor to a man to be a Nazarite, and therefore if a man speak of it as a punishment, saying for instance, I will be a Nazarite rather than do so or so, he is, say the Jews, a wicked man. But he that vows unto the Lord in the way of holiness to be a Nazarite, lo, the crown of his God is upon his head. The particular obligations that the Nazarites lay under. That the fancies of superstitious men might not multiply their restraints endlessly, God himself lays down the law for them, and gives them the rule of their profession. They must have nothing to do with the fruit of the vine, v3:4. They must drink no wine nor string drink, nor eat grapes, no, not the kernel nor the husk, they might not so much as eat a raisin. The learned Dr. Lightfoot has a conjecture, or Hebrew in Luke 1:15, that, as the ceremonial pollutions by leprosy and otherwise represented the sinful state of fallen man, so the institution of the order of Nazarites was designed to represent the pure and perfect state of man in innocency, and that the tree of knowledge, forbidden to Adam, was the vine, and for that reason it was forbidden to the Nazarites, and all the produce of it. Those who gave the Nazarites wine to drink did the tempter's work, Amos 2:12, persuading them to that forbidden fruit. That it was reckoned a perfection and praise not to drink wine appears from the instance of the Rechabites, J 35:6. They were to drink no wine, that they might be examples of temperance and mortification. Those that separate themselves to God and to His honor must not gratify the desires of the body, but keep it under and bring it into subjection. Drinking a little wine for the stomach's sake is allowed, to help that, 1 Tim 5:23. But drinking much wine for the palate's sake, to please that, does by no means become those who profess to walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit, that they might be qualified to employ themselves in the service of God. They must not drink, lest they should forget the law, Prov 31:5, lest they should err through wine, Isa 28:7. Let all Christians oblige themselves to be very moderate in the use of wine and strong drink, for, if the love of these once gets the mastery of a man, he becomes a very easy prey to Satan. It is observable that because they were to drink no wine, which was the thing mainly intended, they were to eat nothing that came of the vine, to teach us with the utmost care and caution to avoid sin and everything that borders upon it and leads to it, or may be a temptation to us. Abstain from all appearance of evil, 1 Th 5:22. They must not cut their hair, v5. They must neither poll their heads nor shave their beards. This was that mark of Samson's Naziriteship which we often read of in his story. Now, this signified a noble neglect of the body and the ease and ornament of it, which became those who, being separated to God, ought to be wholly taken up with their souls, to secure their peace and beauty. It signified that they had, for the present, renounced all sorts of sensual pleasures and delights, and resolved to live a life of self-denial and mortification. Mephibosheth in sorrow trimmed not his beard, 2 Sa. 19:24. Some observe that long hair is spoken of as a badge of subjection, 1 Co 11:5, etc., so that the long hair of the Nazarites denoted their subjection to God, and their putting themselves under His dominion. By this they were known to all that met them to be Nazarites, and so it commanded respect. It made them look great without art, it was nature's crown to the head, and a testimony for them that they had preserved their purity. For, if they had been defiled, their hair must have been cut, v9. Sija 7:29. They must not come near any dead body, v6, 7. Others might touch dead bodies, and contracted only a ceremonial pollution by it for some time. Some must do it, else the dead must be unburied, but the Nazarites must not do it, upon pain of forfeiting all the honor of their Naziriteship. They must not attend the funeral of any relation, no, not father nor mother, any more than the high priest himself, because the consecration of his God is upon his head. Those that separate themselves to God must learn to distinguish themselves, and do more than others, to keep their consciences pure from dead works, and not to touch the unclean thing. The greater profession of religion we make, and the more eminent we appear, the greater care we must take to avoid all sin, for we have so much the more honor to lose by it. To moderate their affections even to their near relations, so as not to let their sorrow for the loss of them break in upon their joy in God and submission to His will. CMT 8:21, 22.